Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. I've got a fantastic guest for you today, Marisa Vanskiver, and she is a digital marketer. She's an entrepreneur, and she's going to talk to us all about website design and all the intricacies around running a web-based business. And just for the audience out there, there's construction going on, so we live in COVID, and I'll do my best to minimize those sounds either through editing. And I'm happy to welcome Marisa to the show. Welcome, Marisa.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you have a very interesting skill set and background, and that is, helping clients build these digital assets, and it could be mostly websites, but kind of talk about you've had a fascinating journey. You learned coding, now you're a web developer, educator. So kind of share how your early passion influenced you to go into this business.
Sure. I was 13 when I decided to start to learn how to code. So full disclosure, my older brother is a software developer and he was learning as a teenager too. This is, the 90s, the early 2000s. And I watched him like build a career right out of high school with, no formal education. I was like, well, that looks interesting. How can I learn this? And then I discovered that I really enjoyed it. But coding was always going to be my hobby in my head, because I really love stories. I love English. So I went to school and got a bachelor's and a master's in literature. Very helpful as a coder. But it's funny because I've talked to a few people over the years about my non-traditional coding background because I joke that coding paid my college tuition, because I always had a coding job throughout college, was that those who are more artistic tend to think about code a little differently than those who approach it from a mere like computer science approach. So I think more about the end user, I think, than not everybody, but that it helps me think about the end user in a little different way, how they're going to use the website, who else is going to look at this code, how is this going to get used. And so I think my kind of non-traditional approach has helped me be an overall better coder because I also think about too, like, what's the copy on the page? What's the purpose of this website? What are we trying to do here? What's the future of all of these things? So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a little strange when I tell people that I've been coding now for 23 years, which I really hate putting that number out there. Like, I'm only 36. I swear it sounds worse than what it is. And I started, working in marketing like at 16, 18, but at the same time, like, it's just been great because I have this vast experience of seeing how the world has changed and not changed at the same time, and how it's always been about the user.
Yeah, really interesting. And at the core of it, it's web accessibility. And your story of using coding to pay your college tuition reminds me of there was a gentleman, he learned to play poker, Carl Icahn, during college, and his parents wanted him to pre-med, but he learned how to play poker, and he made a lot of money during college playing poker, and he used that to fund his tuition. Eventually went into investing. In your opinion, what are the most critical yet often overlooked aspects of making a website accessible, and kind of share examples where accessibility enhancement impacted a client's audience, reach, or business?
Sure. So for a lot of people, they think accessibility means they can view a website on, say, a phone or a tablet or computer. And so I'm an adjunct instructor at Wichita State. I teach digital marketing, and we have this problem every semester where it's like, no, it's about somebody who has, different abilities. So visual impairments, ADHD, autism, even hearing impairments, they're going to interact with the internet in a vastly different way, than what we think of as our personal norm, right? So when we build for accessibility, we're thinking about how anybody is using this website. And that could be as simple as adding captions, closed captionings to your videos that you're putting on your website, to, Instagram, things like that. It could be as simple as adding alternative text tags. So WordPress, Wix, Squarespace, they all give you a little box where you can describe the image. And then that image gets repeated back to somebody who's using like a screen reader, but it helps SEO because that's how Google knows what's in that picture too. So there's lots of these things that are very simple, but it's also about just keeping everything simple too. A lot of the best practices with accessibility, like keeping your text at a lower reading level. Thinking about eighth grade reading level, 8th to 11th grade is usually what they tell you to aim for, because somebody with dyslexia needs to also be able to skim it easily. All of these things that when you start thinking about it, it's like, oh, I'm just keeping everything really simple, which I call the KISS principle. It's a pretty common phrase. Now I tell my students that it's keep it simple, stupid, because you have to remind yourself to keep it simple, but it's also like keep it super simple is what a lot of people use that phrase for. And for accessibility, you avoid flashing lights, you avoid big page load, you avoid long videos with no captions, you avoid, just podcasts with no transcripts, things like that. You just have to think about, okay, if somebody can't listen to this, how can I still get them to be able to, look at or read this content or understand what I'm trying to say to them? Because 20 to 25% of people in the US, just the United States, have a disability. And so when you're cutting off 25% of your audience, you're thinking about the fact that you're losing out on a huge chunk of people, which is sad when you think about the fact that it's something like 0.02% or 0.002% of websites on the internet are fully accessible. So it's a very low bar to do better than your competitors, because almost no one is, right? And we are working with a client right now. They're a health university and making things more accessible. They're adding other programs. It's helped improve, more than anything. Over this last year alone, we did a lot of other work, but including accessibility, we had 76% more hits from Google just in this last year. So accessibility can help improve your SEO, can help improve people coming to your website, bringing in more traffic, because it's easier to find when you're following these best practices too.
TIAA is on a mission. Why? Because 54% of Black Americans don't have enough savings to retire. So in collaboration with big-name artists like Wyclef Jean, TIAA released Paper Right, new music inspiring a new financial future, with 100% of streaming sales going to a nonprofit that teaches students how to invest. Stream Paper Right now and help close the gap.
Yeah, really interesting. One thing that's quite interesting is you talk about, websites, and I view these as kind of like digital assets or digital real estate, because you can create a website from not, you just need a host, and you have a really great design which you can hire, and then basically unique ways to drive traffic to your business. So how do I'm just curious, when you say unique ways, what are your thoughts, and elaborate on that?
On unique ways of driving traffic to your business? Yeah. So I think for a lot of people, the only thing they think about is social media. Judging from bless their hearts, my students, who typically, because they're undergrads, or in their early 20s, but they think that is the only thing in digital marketing that drives traffic to a website. And actually, social media doesn't drive traffic. The whole point of a social media account is to keep people on their app, right? They don't like it when you send somebody off their app to a website. So they tend to give those kinds of posts a lower reach. But when you are using email marketing, when you're using SEO, which just means telling Google what's on your website, building some trust with other people that are linking to your content, creating pages designed to answer the questions that your customers have, right? That they're literally typing into Google, then they land on your page with the answer to that problem. So the whole idea of bringing people to your website is less about the shiny, posting that 5-second reel. That's not really going to do it. Very, very rarely are you going to get anybody on your website from posting a reel. But when you're looking at the things that a lot of us discount, like email marketing, which has a 3,600% ROI for every $36, every dollar you spend, you get 36 back. Like, just absolutely ridiculous. But when you think too about just using your website itself to drive that traffic, creating content that people care about. So podcasts like this, where you can do a podcast and then write a blog summary where they can come listen to the podcast or find the links directly to the podcast episode within your blog. Then you're hitting it within Google search. You're driving traffic from maybe an email list where you're telling them about a new episode. You are also, much more likely to get somebody off of social media to your website to go read something interesting and educational than you are to be like, go buy this thing. And then, lead captures too, ways where you can give somebody a little something for free. So you encourage them to visit your website to get this free value. And then you've moved them into your email list. You continue to encourage them back to your website. And all of these things, I feel like people we forget that they exist. But this is when you are driving and millions of dollars into your business, that's exactly what you're doing. You're not going to make that kind of revenue just posting on social media.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And because I recently read an audio or listened to an audiobook by Alex Hormozy, and he was saying that the greatest ROI is through marketing. And if you can do it correctly, either through like social media marketing or Facebook ads, Instagram ads, like you're talking about 3,600 ROI percent. That's like a 36x. And very rarely do you find that in like stocks, or you may find that in like digital assets, but that's you're speculating. But very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, like with the nice thing about email and with a marketing, you're selling something that's very tangible that you can repeat and you have more control over than, something like stocks or real estate or anything else.
Yeah. And it all comes down to what I find is it comes down to websites, traffic, email, like a newsletter, something you own, a blog, podcast. These things are assets where it's like word of mouth, you drive traffic, you use social media, and then you kind of use like YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, these things to kind of add spice to it. But, the core is. So the other question I had, which was really interesting when I was reading, is what are most people missing on their website, and what are some very quick ways to improve that?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are missing clear calls to action. I mean, it sounds so simple, but I was listening to a podcast, I believe with the Story Brand team last year, and they shared that something like 70% of small business websites don't have any kind of calls to action, which means people are getting to your website and they're reading the page, they're scrolling through, and then they have no idea what you want them to do next. They have no idea if they're supposed to send you an email, if they're supposed to buy something direct. They just kind of go, okay, that's cool. And then they go back to Google because they don't know how to work with you. So quite simply, the easiest thing you can do is tell people, okay, what's next? What do you want me to do? Like, I've looked at your website, it looks great. And it can be as easy as you have a good paragraph of text, some bullet points about what it's like to work with you. Maybe you talk about a service, and then you just add a button, contact us, right? If you want them to go to your contact form, tell them to go to your contact form. I use a very clear, in a lot of the websites I design, calls to action at the bottom of a page where you legitimately cannot miss it. It tends to take up a good section where it says, if you want these results, this is what I want you to do. And then we tell them exactly what to go do. It might be contact, it might be book a call, it might be buy it now, kind of thing. And then another great one, especially for service-based businesses or somebody who has one thing that they're trying to get people to do. So if you want them to buy one specific product, or you want them to sign up for one, like if it's a SaaS service, you want them to get a free trial. If it is literally, I want you to book a call with me so I can vet you as a customer, you can add an action button in the top right of your navigation and tell them, this is what I want you to do. You'll notice when you go to a lot of these programs where you have a login, they have the login button at the top right. We are conditioned right? To look for something there. So when you have, like on my website, I just have a simple book a clarity call with me, and they can go right there and book a call, and they, on any page of the website, they know exactly how to get there. But people are also busy. They're not, I mean, that's the thing, what most people misunderstand about anybody coming to your website. They don't care about it as much as you do, like ever. So don't make them work. Don't make them think about what you want them to do. So yes, you can have that there, but then have other calls to action throughout the page. So you make sure you remind them, like, okay, hey, you like this? Come work with us. This is how you work with us. So, I mean, very simple, but highly effective way to increase conversions on your website is literally tell them what to do next.
Yeah, really interesting. And then now that we're on to this idea of call to action, when somebody comes to your website and there's a call to action, what are key elements besides that in a website to effectively convert visitors to leads? And what are some of the most common mistakes you see businesses that hinder their potential?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is not speaking in a language so your customer understands, right? You're using technical jargon. So I call this industry jargon, right? Like where you know exactly what you mean, but your client doesn't. And this is also where people have a big misstep with SEO, because they're trying to get keywords that are very technical to them, but nobody is putting those into Google. Nobody is searching them. Your competitors are. Like your competitors are searching for those, but your clients aren't. So you have to get in your client mentality and think about what they care about and what they want. The biggest, easiest shift to this is to focus on the benefits of working with you and not the features. So a lot of people, you'll see this a lot in like different SaaS companies, where they'll list out all of these features. My product comes with XYZ, all of these things. That's great, but what does it do for me? Right? Like, why do I care about this? So by literally telling people what the benefit is, like, this is what you're going to get, this is the transformation, you've started to create a picture in their head of, oh, I can get this if I click this button, right? My life can get easier. I can save money. I can save time. I can, get help, whatever it is, whatever problem they're struggling with. They know that if they click that buy now button, they're gonna get that help that they're asking for, because they know that you understand them and you understand the benefits. The other part of that too is being very careful to paint your business as a guide, someone who's going to guide them, someone who's going to help them do this thing, right? We want to feel like the heroes in our own story. We want to feel like we have control over our lives and we are the main character. So our customer needs to feel like they're the main character even when they come to our website. We're just there to make their lives easier. Even if that is as simple as, I'm going to feed you a really good pizza. Like it doesn't have to be overly complex what you're doing for somebody. But as long as you understand this is their pain point and this is what they're trying to fix, you can shift your content to encourage them to very quickly choose to work with you when it all matches up, right? You can have a poorly designed website, but if the content, if the copy is just dialed in, I mean, it will convert. People will buy from you because they believe that you can help them.
Yeah, again, we're having construction, but the next question is, because I know a lot of Gen Z and Gen Alpha, and they're like, yeah, I have social media. I have 1 million followers on TikTok or whatever. I don't need a website. And so kind of play the devil's advocate here and talk about, why you need a website, even though you may not convert it, but it's kind of talk about the importance of having a website.
The best way that I can describe this to people is, let's look at what's happened to Twitter in the last year. I mean, honestly, like when you are putting all of your eggs in a social media basket, you are literally telling a billionaire who does not care about you or the experience that you have on the platform to control your revenue, right? They have 100% control over whether or not your content gets seen, whether or not you keep your account, whether or not you reach anybody whatsoever. I mean, just this last week, Taylor Swift, there was a whole AI bad photo thing happening. So Twitter just you couldn't search for Taylor Swift on Twitter for like a week until they figured out how to clean that up, right? That's good. Like, I'm glad they put, bad things from getting out there, but that tells you what they can do, right? And then you're like, let's look at Instagram. How many times has it changed in the last 2 or 3 years? Not only that, I've heard multiple horror stories over the last like 6 months of Instagram accounts with decently large followings that just randomly lose their account for one reason or another. It gets hacked. Supposedly there's a security problem, whatever. And then it's gone, right? And TikTok, we keep trying to ban TikTok in the United States. If you have 1 million followers on TikTok and they finally come out and they say, okay, no more TikTok, what happens? And just Facebook and Instagram have literally gone down for like 24 hours twice in the last 3 years. So there's all of these things that you can't control. But with a website, you own it, right? Not only that, you get to choose how it looks. You don't have to be beholden to whatever is in their platform and however it comes across. You choose exactly what that website looks like. You choose how people read the messaging. You choose exactly the content you want. You have control, more or less, of how people move through your website and how they read your story. But more than that, when somebody is working with you on social media, and especially if you're trying to sell them something, they want to see that you've invested in yourself. And the only way to really see that you've invested in yourself is to have a presence that you own and control. I'm very hesitant. I don't know if I've ever given anybody money that just has an Instagram account, because I don't know if I'm actually going to get that product later, right? But if you spend $20 a month to even have like a Squarespace website, that makes me feel a little bit better about giving you my money, because I know that you're not going to just disappear and run away with it. Like, I'm probably going to get my product. So there's a lot of trust built into that too. But really, just Jinsey, do you want to have a billionaire control your money? Because I don't think you do. I think that's the biggest takeaway is we're not in control.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. And like I said, I'm talking to the smart ones, and they're always they use social media, but that's like just a part of it. They're not putting
Yeah,
just the small ones.
it's your amplifier, right? Like that's where you can go get your message out to more people in a colder audience a lot faster. But when you have all your eggs in that basket, I mean, Mark Zuckerberg is building an underground bunker with Wagyu beef in Hawaii. He doesn't care about whether or not you made money on Facebook last month, like whatsoever.
How can people find out more about you and the work that you do, and kind of balance between do it yourself and a professional website designer?
Yeah, sure. So I am Captain Coder. That is my business name. It was a years long nickname that I was like, I just have to, lean into it. If you're watching this on video, you can see my background of nerd culture on the walls. And I am at Capt, CAPT, coder.com. I'm Captain Coder on Instagram. You can follow me there. Marisa Vanskiver on LinkedIn. And one of the great ways to kind of understand how we work is I have a free guide. Do you mind if I share that?
Sure.
Yeah. So you can go to captcoder.com/leads, and it will tell you how to get 10 strategies to get more leads out of your website and changes that you can make on your own. I fully believe in a custom website is going to get you the best return on investment, but not everybody is there yet, right? And so I have guides like these that I released on a regular basis, and other ways that you can work with us to improve your existing website until you're ready to kind of go all in and build a true foundation for your digital business.
Yeah, for all the audience out there, let's thank Marisa for coming on. Like I said, I've always been fascinated with websites, SEO, email marketing, all these very traditional, very powerful. And if you can really drive traffic and provide a lot of value, you have those customers for a long time. And be sure to follow her and give her a like on all her socials, as well as her offer. And with that, thanks so much for coming on to the podcast.
All right, thank you very much for having me.